I just wanted to say, thank you. This was the first time I got to participate because I was usually in school, and like he showed on the video, if you've ever been able to worship with 4,000 to 5,000 people, it is like a small glimpse of what heaven will be like. It was amazing, and I just wanted to say thank you that I went with my cup coming back just. Look at me getting all emotional. On the great part, though, it was an international conference, and so they had people from all over the world, and so they had people from Africa and Kenya, and they're big huggers. You know, they like to hug. And it was hilarious to see it. I was just, oh my gosh, what's it going to do? And we just stood there and got hugged. It was really cute. I got the camera, but I thought that would be important. So,
I thought the one you.
You did.
Get one of these.
No. But really, if you're ever stuck with your spouse driving 10 hours, placed in a car with your spouse for 10 hours, it was just a really good talk time, especially coming back from the conference on, you know when you're a teenager and you go to youth conference and you come back and you're all just like jazzed and ready to go? That is totally me this morning. And he at one point had to say, simmer down, Tiger, just hold on. And, but...
I just switched.
But I just felt like my cup was totally filled with, and I thought of all of you. I thought of all of you guys with, I'll hear about this in our kitchen. All right. No, I did. I was standing there worshiping and listening to people, and I thought of the Alvarezes and the Wilkersons and the Gregg family, and I thought of all of you guys, and I thought how blessed that I felt to not be my church family, but to be my family, who we have the opportunity to serve and Riverbank with. And the Lord totally placed on my heart Riverbank. I thought I hated Riverbank. I did, and it was a time for me just to open up and go, okay, God, what do you want us to do as a family? Burden us with the people that we serve, that we really can reach. And it was so hot in Phoenix, I thought, I don't want any of them to have to go to hell, because it is hot. It was so hot, and it just, not to be funny, but really, I came home, and I thought how blessed I am, and I saw all of your faces, and I was so grateful, not to say that you're my church family, but really are my family, and how wonderful that God has placed us in this location to serve the people here. And so, remember that I love you when I come to recruit you for all these ideas that I have, that I really do love you. But I just felt like an outpouring of God's Spirit. And when I came back, my cup was filled. So I hope my cup overflows to you. That is my prayer, that if you're sitting there halfway, or kind of dry, or just kind of wondering where you are in your journey.
All right.
Yeah, I'm down in the front.
That's right. Seriously. All right. Now it's time for the monkey. That's good. I told her driving home. I was like, you're getting really close to that line. After, she crossed it. She stepped right over it. Didn't even heed my warnings. Now look at you.
As long as you don't put a little table up front with 2 bar stools, we're okay.
Yes. Hey, you know what? I would bet that's not bad. I was very comfortable. Yes, it was awesome. We had it really great. There's a video I'm going to order of one of the sermons that we heard that is really maybe number 1 best sermon I've ever heard in my life. And that's saying something, considering actually I do listen to sermons. I don't just talk. I actually listen to some of the great speakers. This is the first time I've ever even heard of. But gave the greatest sermon on personal evangelism and understanding your community that I've ever heard in my life. And I didn't do it justice by saying personal evangelism, but that's really the only way I can describe it. It's the most on-point discussion I've ever heard in my life, and as much as I wanted to steal it, I chose not to. I'll give you all the credit, show it to you a video this summer. But we had a great time. We got to stand there and do that together. It really is the first time we've been able to kind of get away to a convention like that together, or to any kind of pastoral thing. So we did want to thank you for that. And give us that time for Richard for speaking last week, and for all of the things that were taken care of while we were gone. We had nothing to worry about. It was so nice. We just got in the car and drove to Phoenix, and it was an amazing time of just getting to see what's going on, hear what's going on. They had a lady who's the head of the Foursquare Church in Jamaica say like the most insane prayer you've ever heard in your life. Like at one point, I was just absolutely intimidated by her prayer. I hear her prayer like that, and you're like, I gotta get saved. I don't have a third passion. A woman does up there. That's but we heard of missionaries from Cambodia and ministers from around the country. Wayne Cordero spoke. He's always good. But just a tremendous time of just kind of connecting with people and having a good time, and just getting away and thinking about what's going on here. It was wonderful. So that was our convention report. We will probably be hearing more about it throughout the summer. Came back with a lot of ideas. I consider myself someone who's very good at conventions because I try not to grab everything. I'm one of those people who's like, okay, I'll take that one, and that one. Here we go. Because you can get paralysis by analysis. You get too much information to come along and be like, oh, I can't do anything. So I think we've got a couple of nice things for everyone. So why don't you guys stand up, give each other a hug, tell them how much you love them. Somebody hug Lisa, please. And a female. Oh, man. But take just a few minutes to spend some time together. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk out of Joshua 4. If you want to turn your phone to Joshua chapter 4. We're going to be talking out of Joshua 4 today. The children of Israel have crossed the Jordan River, and now we're in the process, actually, in chapter 4, of crossing the river. And so we're going to talk about what that means. Let's start by saying, how many of you guys have been to Washington, D.C.? How many of you guys went to Washington, D.C. for anything other than monuments? Right? You go for the feel of who our nation is. You go enjoy the monuments. You walk around and you say, wow, this is amazing. Wow, this is great. And then, you walk around corners, you run into things, and you're like, oh, here's the FDR Memorial. You go through all these different things. And it's a city that's kind of built around, wow, that has slipped in some regard, but it's built around a remembrance of who we are as a nation and where we've come and where we're going. And I really enjoy Washington, D.C. for that reason. So a little bit of this morning is going to be a little bit kind of like traveling through that city. So in Joshua 4 it says, and it came to pass, when all the people had completely crossed over the Jordan, that the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, Take for yourselves 12 men from the people, one man from every tribe, and command them, saying, Take for yourself 12 stones from here, out of the midst of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood firm. So at this point, the priests, the Ark of the Covenant, are standing in the middle of the river. Okay. What a cool experience that must have been for the guys carrying the Ark, right? I mean, to actually just walk out there and stop. Now, it's your job to wait, it's your job to stand here, it's your job to continue to hold the waters back because the presence of the Lord is with you. And so they're standing there kind of doing this, and there's a river stopped right here. Obviously on the way down, the city just sort of kept rolling out. But here, it stopped. And so these men just were standing there and look at this. And so now while they're stopped in the river, they're supposed to go grab 12 stones. And you shall carry them over with you, and leave them in the lodging place where you lodge tonight. And Joshua called 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, one from every tribe. And Joshua said to them, Cross over before the ark of your Lord, your God, in the midst of the Jordan, and each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel. That this may be a sign among you when your children ask in time to come, saying, What do these stones mean to you? Then you shall answer them, that the waters of the Jordan were cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord when it crossed over the Jordan. And the waters of the Jordan were cut off. And these stones shall be for a memorial to the children of Israel forever. And the children of Israel did so, just as Joshua commanded. They took up 12 stones from the midst of the Jordan, as the Lord had spoken to Joshua, according to the number of tribes of the children of Israel, and carried them over with them to the place where they lodged and laid them down there. Then Joshua set up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan, in the place where the feet of the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant stood, and they are there till this day. So, here we have two sets of stones. Okay, the first set, God spoke to Joshua, and he said, I want you to take 12, and I want you, each one from the tribe, to take the stone over to the place where you're going to camp, to your new place, to your new home for now. And you're going to, each one of you is going to take up one of these per tribe, and you're going to go take them over here to this place. So that's the first set. But then there's a second set where Joshua chose to take and make a 12-stone memorial in the middle of the river. God didn't tell Joshua to do that. Joshua chose to do that. Okay, you all understand that there's a difference there. God didn't tell Joshua to do that. This is where Joshua has made a decision. He said, I am going to set up for myself, for my own knowledge, for anyone who passes by this river in the future, to know that in the middle of this water is the place where God chose to stop the water from flowing. So he's putting it there. Because once the water washes over it, you're not going to see it, right? Everybody get that? Okay, so it's kind of a hidden memorial. It's in a place where, you know, a few will remember, but for the most part, it's for Joshua. Joshua will remember. Because this is the place that those stones are. It's not a place where you can come say, see the stones. It's a place where you say, I know that in that river, where it is washed over, where the water has come back to the way it was from the beginning, that deep down inside, there is a memorial built to God for what he did to deliver us into this situation. So we must not take too lightly the remembrance of our deliverances. One of the things that's really important for us as Christians to cling on to is this understanding that we can't take too lightly the remembrance of our deliverances. I've told people on specific occasions in the past that you have to be careful to not just revel so much in your deliverance that you forget what you were delivered from. A lot of times we do that. We act like our past doesn't exist. We look back and we say, what? I never made any mistakes. Jesus has cured me from that issue and he's cast my sin away so I don't have to remember it. But the reality is that's not, while you shouldn't spend the rest of your life struggling with your sin of your past, you have to understand from which you have been delivered. And so God tells them to take these stones out of the river from where the priests are standing, because they're standing in a really interesting spot, right? The water's here. It's right there. I want you to go out there and I want you to grab 12 stones. Because while you're doing that, there's going to be an understanding of what's happening. Because you got to go probably dig them up a little bit. I doubt these were little bitty stones. Okay? I don't think they were like little river rocks. You know, like fantastic. We're going to go make a pile of 12. So if anybody ever asks about this, they're going to remember this little pile of stones. And no, they're probably pretty good sized stones that they were going to make into a pretty neat little pile. And so they have to go out there and kind of, you know, get the little hand tools out, pull a pretty good sized stone, and they're going to haul them off to this place where they're going to launch. So there's this moment you have in the middle of what's going on where you're digging a little stone out and you look over and you're like, that's pretty cool, right? There's water, it's stopped, right? That river is stopped. God is delivering us through what seems to be an impossible circumstance and bringing us to a place of help. And so we have to make sure that we don't, recall too lightly where we've been delivered from. And so the first question is, why take stones from the river? So the first set of stones is taking stones from the river. We are removing the stones. We're not making a pile in the river. But why take stones from the river? Because often when we're delivered, we forget what we were delivered from. So these stones are to serve as a reminder of from where they were delivered. These stones are out of the middle of the river. They could not have been taken from anywhere else. These stones are out of the middle of turmoil. These stones are out of the middle of our obstacle, of our difficulties. These stones represent God allowing us to pass through an impossible set of circumstances. Our river has been stopped. That is an impossible set of circumstances. No dam was built. The water wasn't held back by anything mankind did. God said, water stop, water stop. So now we are digging stones out from the basin of this river, and we're bringing them with us. And so we're actually bringing something from the middle of our deliverance to the place we have been delivered to. So the first set of stones is so that we don't forget where we've come from. We cannot forget where God has brought us. As Christians, we have to recall the difficulties that God has brought us out of and the peace that God has delivered us to, the place where God has brought us. It's very important. And then why leave stones in the river? Because we need to be thankful in the midst of our deliverance as well. There had to be a point of thankfulness in the middle of that. Joshua, we talked a few weeks ago about how Joshua was about to be exalted. He was about to be magnified in the eyes of Israel. So for Joshua, he's making a set of stones for each of the tribes because he is now, this is his moment, right? This is his time. He is being magnified. If you read in the middle of chapter 4, it says that Joshua is now magnified as Moses was before the eyes of Israel. And so Joshua is making this pile in the middle of the river because he knows this is his moment. This is his moment of deliverance. He's gone from Moses' sidekick, he's gone from, pretty stellar spy, to being magnified in the eyes of Israel. So he is making a monument, a personal remembrance for himself in the middle of that moment, which was his deliverance, which was what brought him out of where he was. And so you ask yourself, so should I just go around making piles of rocks every time I have a good situation? The answer is yes, if that's what it takes for you to not forget your journey. It is important, it is imperative as Christians that we have a memorial in our lives, things to bring remembrance of where we have come from and ultimately where we are going. It's important that we do that because it allows us to look at our past differently. When we look at our past through the eyes of deliverance, it's different. Let me give you an example. I have to go to the dentist tomorrow. True story. Probably won't sleep. I broke a tooth like 6 years ago. And I have the threshold of pain. No, I broke a tooth at camp serving Jesus. And I went to the dentist when I got back. And I said, I'm broken tooth. And it doesn't hurt, but probably need to get it fixed. So I hate the dentist. If any of you have any hopes of being a dentist, our friendship will end soon. But I hate the dentist. I do. I loathe the dentist. You can ask my wife. I hate it. There are a lot of things in life I'm willing to go through. You know what I'm saying? No problem. A lot of pain I'm willing to live with. No problem. The dentist?
They also need options.
That's right. When I was at the dentist 2 weeks ago, getting this thing checked, because it's doing things now that you shouldn't do. And I'm sitting there, and I'm talking to this really nice young lady from Big Valley who's a dental hygienist there. And we're talking, and I said, is it just me, or really, all of medicine has moved forward except dentistry? They still use like bone saws and chisels. Like you walk in, and the guy walks out, and he's got no! like a little pinky thing. Really? That's what we got? It's 2012. It's a little sickle. You stick it in my mouth. Right? And they grab stuff, and you're like, I don't think you should pull on it. That's hard! And so I laid down in the chair, and I told her, I said, she was very nice, and she was asking me, she found out I was a pastor, and so she was asking me all these questions about her teenager, which I always think is funny at the dentist. Right? They always want to talk to me. And I'm looking at her going, I'll wait till you're done with your torture, and I'll let you know. And then they look at you like, why haven't you answered me? You ever get that one? They're like, and then you think, swallow all the stuff you're breaking off my face. I hate the dentist. Okay? I hate the dentist. But, so here's the thing. As much as I hate the dentist, I always have a very nice time and a pleasant time with the people at the dentist office. Always. They have to be. But, right? Because it's the one profession where you have to be nice. Because no one would go there. But I always have a very pleasant time with people at the dentist. They're always very nice to me. They give me, candy, which I love, which makes tons of sense. It's job security. And so but they're always very nice, very cordial. I always have a nice time talking with people at the dentist. When you first walk in, they do a good job of trying to make you feel comfortable. They're like, yes, you have years and years of neglect, but I love you anyway. You're like, thank you. And so, you always, but when I look back, when someone says the word dentist, what do I think? Drill. Pain. Why? Because I told them, when I laid down, I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you, the tooth is kind of sensitive. If you stick that little pick in there, I'm going to stand up and walk out, and you will never see me again. You know, because it's either that or start hitting people to relieve my pain. Okay? So I told you that because that's what I associate the dentist with, is my pain. I don't associate the dentist with good times, good people, although it always is. They're very nice. The dentists are great. You know, they're always super cool. But I associate the dentist with pain. Because that's my experiences are, I remember my pain. I remember what hurt the most. I remember walking out of there with, you know, this going on and going, how was it? What was wrong? Nothing. This is from my cleaning. Right? Because they clean with like that sandpaper and that stick. They're like, be careful, enamel is sensitive. But that's what I remember. Right? Isn't that what you remember? It's what I remember. Because I remember my pain. That's what I remember. Now, tomorrow, after the weeping, and the anger and the rage I will feel toward those people there, and the desire with which I will want to just thrash things on my way out, because my face will be this big and my mouth will be hurting. By Wednesday, I will be able to chew on the left side of my mouth. Right? By Wednesday, I will have relief from the pain that I've been dealing with for the last 5 months, since I rewrote it to make it worse. I will have that relief. But if I don't make a note of that, if I don't go into it knowing Wednesday is coming, I would never go on Monday. Right? Because I'm associating it with my pain. And so for the children of Israel, it would have been easy to say, no need for memorial. We don't want to remember the wandering wilderness for 4 years. But we have to take these times and lay out the stones of our life to recall God's deliverance. So for a lot of us, it's easy to say, okay, first one, for me, salvation, right? This is my first one. I don't consider birth because I didn't have much to do with it. But I would lay that down, right? And I would say, I can remember when I was 16 years old at youth convention getting saved. I remember it like it was yesterday. I do, because it's written in my Bible, if you open it up, it says, Adam got saved. And it has the date my mom put it in. She did. She bought me the Bible. Had my little name on it, gold leaf. And I still use it. And that Bible serves as a memorial to me. Not of what God's done, but of my journey. So salvation would be that first rock. I would lay that down in my past, and I would say, I can remember that. Right? Now, it would be easy for me to look back at the first part of my life and say, man, I was a screw-up. But not really. Because I look back at the stone of salvation, right? And then I would say, you know what, I can remember when I got baptized. I was baptized by 2 people. Long story. Needed a double dip, apparently. And I would say baptism was my second step. Right? Because that's biblical. It's important. I can remember all kinds of things I was delivered from. I went through a period of illness in my 20s, not just mentally and emotionally, but I went through something with my brain. Kid you not made up. Wasn't working well. Back to full capacity now. God brought me through that. I was delivered from it. Now, I'm not focusing on the pain of it. I'm not focusing on how miserable I was all that time. I'm placing that rock because God delivered me. So for the children of Israel, they're saying this rock shows that God delivered us through the Jordan. God delivered us from what couldn't happen. You know, it's impossible. Then, this one would be the day that Lisa was fortunate enough to meet me. God delivered Lisa. That's that one right there. That's Lisa's deliverance. She probably need a bigger stone. But it'd be easy for me to say, now, I could look back on the period before Lisa and say, man, I really made a lot of mistakes. Really screwed up my life. Made some horrible decisions. But no, the rock signifies not the decisions I made and my mistakes. The rock signifies God's deliverance. You see what I'm saying? Totally makes up for not having. All right. So, then, I would say, let's see, this one would be, I got an email from a person named Lynn Settler. I was general manager of a restaurant. I liked food, making it, eating it, everything about it. Had made it my life. Got an email out of the blue from Dr. Lynn Settlemyer in East Texas. I was happy making food. I really was. I was good at it. I had a talent. But she said, I need a youth pastor who has youth ministry experience and knows how to run a business and has food experience. And I said, my response was, well, you probably should hire me. I might be the only one. She hired me. She took me out of the world where I had become comfortable and complacent and put me back into the fray of ministry, working with people, teenagers. And God delivered me from myself. Right? I could choose to focus on God, you know, why'd you take me out of that? Food's great, never talks back, does what you tell you to do. And you're done with it in 30 minutes. Where are you chucking? People, nothing like that. Right? Y'all take a lot longer than 30 minutes. Right? I've talked to some of you for hours and didn't even do it. So, then comes Marcus. I have a kid. What's up with that? Right? I was like, I don't even know what to do. Marcus, what? Huh? Okay. So I got Marcus, church, and fatherhood, and all these things that I had no right to have, but God brought it to me. Don't worry about it, rock later for dealing with Marcus as a teenager. Right? And then, so there I am in East Texas with a kid, and all those things. And I realized that my father-in-law was not doing well. And I said, you know, God, we need to move back. And I don't want to. Just being honest. I don't want to, but I know my wife wants to. She wants to be close to her dad because he's not doing well. So I say, let's go home. Let's go back to California. I'll start looking for a job tomorrow. That was the day Mill Creek posted the job for a youth pastor. So God brought me back here. The exact day that Mill Creek posted that job. God brought me back here. Then comes this mess we get to deal with every Sunday. Right? Us. The chance to be pastor of this group of awesome people. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, when I look back on my life, I can walk from each rock that God put in my life. If I look at it from deliverance. Or I can choose to walk in the pain of the mistakes I've made and choose to ignore God's deliverance. Both are very easy to repent. You can do it. You don't even have to look, right? You don't have to look. You can totally miss God's deliverance, right? Totally missed it all. Right? And by the way, it's the first time I've done this illustration in practice. I swear. You guys know better than that. I'm not that advanced. But when I look at my life, I look at my salvation, my baptism, I look at all the points in my life where God has delivered me from myself. And I have to choose to do that. We have to choose to remember it that way. Because if we choose to remember it the other way, we're going to spend the rest of our lives hating ourselves and missing what God's doing in our life. Then we're going to say, well, God doesn't like me. He never helps me out. Well, how'd you get through all this? You got through it because you're walking on the pillars of God's deliverance. These are the reason you put stones down. Is because they're firm. They hold the ground really well. You know, I was thinking, we were driving home, you know, and I don't know what started to think maybe I had some ADD problems, but I was thinking about the weight that it would take to move the earth. You know what I'm saying? To crush the ground, there is no weight. because the rocks are solid. You know, we were at the Grand Canyon, that's what it was. And I was thinking about it, impacting the sediment and the layers of rock, and how strong God's deliverance is in our lives if we stand on it, and how weak everything else is. And to be honest with you, this is something we have to teach ourselves to do. There's a reason God said, now go get rocks. Because what were they going to do? What we all do, right? This is great. And God's going, no, real quick, before you get going too far there. Why don't you go grab something that's going to remind you of this later? Why do you take pictures? To remind you of what happened. Right? Why are pictures important? To remind you of what happened. To go, oh, I remember that. Last night, I was uploading all of my photos off my phone because my phone started to get all weird on me to the cloud. And I was feeling so awesome. Because I have stuff in the cloud. You know? And anyway, the first photo's off there from 2 years ago, and Travis is wearing sunglasses with his little binky in his mouth, wearing PJs. He's going like this. I'm like, oh, I remember that day. I had forgotten that day. But I remember that day. Now. Because there he is, the little Trav man. I have a video on my phone where Travis puts the laundry basket on his head, starts walking around. Dude, it's hilarious. Because he runs into the wall and just keeps doing it. He looks like little R2-D2, right? See little feet out of the bottom of the basket. Clomp. Then he falls down, he starts laughing. Then he stands back up, does it again. I got the video on my phone. I've forgotten that. I've forgotten that. Because I'm a human being. All of us, last I checked, are human beings. We forget stuff. That's why God says, set up a memorial for yourself to remember where I brought you from. Restore unto me the joy of mine. You have to remember it all the time. For some of us, we got saved out of hell, right? We were drug addicts, alcoholics, just totally disastrous. Some of us, like me, I was a teenager. Which is way worse than being a drug addict. But I was a teenager, and it's easy for me to go, yeah, you know, sure. Maybe I wasn't saved out of all the amazing stuff some other people were saved out of, but you know what? God chose that day to call me. I've been to 1,000 church services in my life. I heard Jesus preach 9 ways to Sunday. I heard every really cool, fun thing about Jesus, why he's awesome, why he saved the world, what cool grace is, all that stuff, and I've never taught anybody to do it. But then for some reason, that day I was called out of it. I was called out of my ignorance. I can't forget that. I can't forget the things that God has done for me along the way. Little things, sure. Sometimes the rocks are maybe they seem kind of small. Maybe it's easy to forget. But we have to choose to memorialize our deliverances. We have to choose. Why? Because it's critical. When you read on, it says, now the people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month, and they camped in Gilgal on the east border of Jericho. And those 12 stones which they took out of the Jordan, Joshua set up in Gilgal, where they were camping. He spoke to the children of Israel, saying, when your children ask their fathers in time to come, saying, what are these stones? You respond with, and you shall tell your children, you shall let your children know, saying, Israel, cross over this Jordan. For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan before you, until they crossed over. As the Lord your God did to the Red Sea, which he dried up before us until we had crossed over. That all the peoples of the earth may know that I am the Lord, that it is mighty, and that you may fear the Lord your God forever. Why do you remember? So that you can tell others what God has delivered you from. A Christian who chooses to not be delivered, a Christian who chooses to stand in the wallows of their past sin, is missing the point. Did you screw up? Yes. Did I screw up? Horribly. But when I tell people about God's deliverance, I don't want to sound like somebody who hasn't been delivered. That's the worst kind of deliverance, right? I'll tell you about this God who saves. Yeah, he's cool to most people. Still, the verdict out on me, I think. But God seems to have delivered others from great things. No! As a Christian, we should be able to stand strong on these moments. But you know, years and years ago, I remember when I walked into the Vita Ray's restaurant, and my life was in the toilet. And I say it nicely. All my friends had, like, roaches when the lights come on. So, gone. And the biggest, hairiest, cussingest, meanest angel that that God ever sent to earth spoke to me in person. His name's Randy Peters. I'm pretty sure he's an angel. And I know why he's not standing next to God right now. He's got a foul on. But he delivered me. God delivered me that day. God gave me a second chance. God's given me a lot of second chances. And I have to remember that because the older generation needs to tell the younger generation about the importance of the stones. Right? You never forget that, huh? For the younger audience, that's the Rolling Stones. Or at least the two of them. And they don't roll much anymore. But here's the thing, is we have to be able to tell the younger generation about the importance of the stones. We have to be able to walk back in when my son is old enough that what I say matters. As far as my experience, because when they're little, it's irrelevant, your experience, because they're like, I don't even know what that means. But when my son is old enough, I need to be able to tell my son that, you know what, son, at one point your dad was a sinner saved by grace. That Jesus chose to bring me up out of sin and deliver me. That you know what, your dad was baptized and it mattered. When I was baptized, I was brought from the old man to the new. And you know your dad made some horrible mistakes way back here. But while I'm telling him, I'm standing on the deliverance. That I'm not doing it with my head down, but I'm doing it with my head up. Why? Because I'm proud of what God's done for me in my life. Because I know I couldn't have done it. And I'm choosing to stand on it. I'm choosing to not move from it. And when I walk back through my past, I walk back through my past standing only on the monuments to God in my life. None of it has anything to do with my achievement. I didn't call Dr. Lynn Settlemeyer and tell me to call me. I'm the guy you're looking for. She called me. Emailed me. I didn't walk into Benita Reyes going, okay, God, I need an angel. I walked in going, okay, God, I need a job. You know what I'm saying? I do not deserve this. This one over here is Lisa still. I do not deserve Lisa. But I cannot live my life as though I don't deserve Lisa. I live my life saying, thank you, God, for Lisa. You know what I'm saying? I live my life saying, my wife is a monument, a stone, a memorial in my life. And I live as such all the time. Okay. I try. There's some times where I kind of do this. But I try to stay out there. And it's easy because you always have confidence. But I stand strong. Wait, I wrote it up. I stand strong because I don't deserve her, but I know that God has brought her into my life. And I stand going, thank you, God, not are you sure? Because I'm pretty lame. No, I go, thank God that you don't see me as lame as I see myself. You see me as someone who needed some help, so you threw me a rock. God's like, seriously, you're going to wander. Give you some help, right? But that's the reality. I have to look at it that way. We all do. We have to look at our lives. And you can sit there and tell me all day long, well, I don't know. I don't have a lot of those stones. I guarantee you have plenty of these. You've just chosen not to look at it. You've just chosen to ignore them. You enjoy walking in your pain, right? It's like the dentist. You're not walking on the relief. Oh, thank God my tooth doesn't hurt anymore. Oh, thank God I still have them all. You're going drill, pick, bone saw, needle. And they put it right in front of your eyes, right? Just let you hurt for a second. But that's the reality, right? You've chosen to do that instead of looking at the relief that God has brought you. Well, what's the testimony the world needs to hear from us? What's the testimony the world needs to hear from us? This one? Or deliverance? 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 Julian Banjo's up there. Deliverance? Right? Every one of you has a number of these. Every one of you. If you have said yes to Jesus, you got this one. If you haven't been baptized, it's not a big step to this one. We can take her out anytime you want. But I guarantee if you can say it and baptized, you can have one. You got plenty to leave off of because of grace. And we go back to Joshua chapter 3, where he says, "For you have not passed this way before." Sometimes when you're going to places you've never been before, we cannot forget where God's brought us from. But I look at it through the eyes of deliverance. When the great philosopher said, "How great is stupidity and gratitude of men who perceive not his hand and will not acknowledge his goodness in their frequent deliverances." The reality is, how stupid are we that we look at our life and we miss the deliverances, and we don't set up the monuments, and we don't remind ourselves, and we don't do things to remind us. When my mom put that date in my Bible, when my mom bought me that Bible when I was a teenager, I don't think she had any idea that here it is, I'm 38 years old, and I still remember it, because every time I open it, I go past that page. I think she was just like, this is what we do, right? This is what we do with the family Bible. You got saved on there, you got baptized, write your name, hold on. Well, here it is, over 20 years later, still serves as a memorial for this. Stand firm on the deliverances of God. Quit walking in the sin and the pain and the frustration and the insecurity and the unknowing and the doubting God's deliverance, because I think that makes him mad more than anything. Is when we apply, we go, I don't know. That might have just been me. No. Did you get delivered? Then you stand strong and you thank God for it. I guarantee no one from Israel ever walked, for the first generation, they got to put those stones in the pile. How many times do you think they walked their kids up there? How many times do you think they walked that next generation up there? How many times do you think there was an old man sitting up there just relaxing on those stones? Some poor unbeknownst youngster walked by. He got a story, right? You know what these stones were? No, I'm just going to get Bill. Yep. I remember we took these out there. It's our fact. God's deliverance is our fact. Walk on. Learn to accept. One of the hardest things for me in my life has always been to accept God's forgiveness. I'm just being honest. From the mistakes I've made, the things I've done, one of the hardest things for me to do is to accept God's forgiveness. I struggle with it all the time. And you know, this week at convention, there was no sermon on that, really. It was just what I felt all week. Because sometimes you just have to take it on. And you got to stand on the fact God's like, have you taken a look around? I delivered you. Quit throwing yourself back into the turmoil. Yeah, but God, I'm so comfortable over here. Because this is where I failed, and this is where I just get to enjoy the stench of my humanity. I like my own smell, right? And God's like, dude, up here. All right, fine. I'm going to stand on your deliverance. But that's what we have to do. You got to let go. The past should be seen through the eyes of God's deliverance, not what weaves in the middle of it, which is our mistakes. Don't live in what you need to be delivered from. Live in your deliverance. Either you're a Christian saved by grace and forgiven, or you're not. There's no middle ground. So if you're a Christian saved by grace and forgiven, then guess what? You're forgiven. I don't care what you did. You're forgiven. God's not holding you to it. It's gone. Doesn't matter what you did. Doesn't matter how bad it was. Gone. You know? And when we look, I want to show you one more verse, one more passage very quick. Maybe some of you have heard this. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. And that's where most of us stop reading, right? The next verses are way over. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him. For whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe stands condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of God's one and only Son. This is the verdict. Okay? There's a sense of finality to that. Everybody get that? Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that their deeds will be exposed. But whoever lives by the truth comes into the light so that it may be seen plainly that what they have done has been done in the sight of God. Either you're living condemned or you're not. If you come to Christ, you're not condemned. You're forgiven. And you can live with your deeds in the light of Christ's forgiving, saving grace. Walking through your past on the deliverance of God. And with every one of you here, there is deliverance in your life. That's why you're sitting here. Right? He delivers those he loves. Every one of you has been delivered. So guess what? You don't get to hate yourself. You don't get to hang on to the junk anymore. You don't get to hit yourself with a board anymore. You don't get to hate the person next to you anymore. Because they're loved and delivered too, right? Look at your past from where you were to where you are. And I guarantee you the only way you got there is by walking on the deliverance of God. Nice and simple, right? Yeah? Sure. Let's pray. Father, we just, I think a number of us probably need to apologize to you and maybe just the people around us. We've been living in the pity of our past way too long. And we've been resting not on the rocks of your deliverance, not on the stones of your deliverance, but maybe in the guilt of our failures. But rather than reliving 40 years in the wilderness, we're going to start enjoying the 12 stones in the camp. And we're going to say thank you for delivering us from the self-inflicted crud and the foolishness of mankind that we can be so stupid and arrogant as to not enjoy those stones of deliverance. I can speak for myself only and say that I am done with the living in the regret of my sin. And I am starting to live and relish the enjoyment of my deliverance. And I pray that I never lose sight of just how real that deliverance is. Having the joy of my salvation restored to me. Having the remembrance of my baptism and growth and discipleship in the church restored to me. Never letting myself forget that you brought Lisa into my life as deliverance. As someone who you have partnered with me in this tremendous adventure of life. And I never forget that you brought us here to this church in Riverbank, to starting this church the journey and giving the opportunity to just love and hang out with the people that you have brought in. We know that you have a great future ahead, a prosperous future of a church that will impact this city, of a church that will make a difference in its community, that I do not lose sight of that. That I have just been given a tremendous and wonderful opportunity. And then that while things might get difficult sometimes, and things may be frustrating at times, I know that one of the rocks of deliverance in my life is this church. It's this group of people that I get to hang out with. And been given the honor of serving and occasionally, getting a chance to teach and lead. And God, may we just never forget our deliverances. So God, hear our sorrows, hear our apologies, and know that we're done after that. I don't want to go back and apologize again, because I don't want to do it again. I don't want to get caught up in my past anymore. I'm living for the future, and I'm living for the next deliverance, and the next deliverance, and the next deliverance, so that when I tell people in my life, I can walk all the way back to being a teenager on the rocks of your deliverance. And I don't have to wallow in the swamp of my sin and self-pity. Thank you, God, for loving us enough to not let us do that. May we not be so arrogant as to forget. For whatever it is we need to do to memorialize those things we do. We thank you for the blood of your Son, Jesus Christ, that came to earth to forgive us of our sins, to wash us clean, to give us new life, to not condemn us, but to raise us in love. Let us not forget that. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. you guys are good, I would say it would be a really good thing for you right now to share one of your deliverance projects. Just saying. You're dismissed.